Guys, I think we'll kick off, will we? Good morning, everyone. Kevin Lillis is my name. I'm one of the CXMs here in Wellington IT. I really want to welcome everyone to our first cuEngage session of 2021. And thank you all for taking the time this morning to attend what we feel is a very interesting session. We'll have multiple cuEngage sessions on different topics across the year. We'll talk more on that later. But this morning we focus on how the Irish public rate credit unions, which is a national survey we completed through census-wide at the start of April. So it really is information that's hot off the press. I'm going to hand over to Emma Leahy, who's our marketing manager, and Stephen Phillips, who's our business development manager, to walk and talk through these results, which I think you'll find very interesting. Emma, we'll hand to you.
Apologies, did not realize that I was muted there. Okay, so thanks, Kevin. Actually, just before we begin, can I just remind everyone to mute your mics until the Q&A at the end? And if you do have any questions, feel free just to pop those into the chat bar and we'll read those at the end. So as Kevin said, in early April, we commissioned a national survey to be carried out by independent market research company Census-wide to find out the public perception of credit unions and what would make them switch from their current financial provider. So in this session, Stephen and I are going to walk you through those results, including how the public really feel about credit unions, what would influence the public to switch to a credit union, how digital can play a huge role, and then Stephen's going to identify some key opportunities for credit unions. But before we get into that, we wanted to provide some background into the survey itself. So, as I said, the survey was carried out by independent market research company Census-wide, who are specialists in conducting surveys across the globe. And as with any authorised survey, there was a number of strict criteria that had to be followed. So all questions must be clear and concise and must not lead the participant. Answer sets could not be leading, i.e. yes or no answers. So answers were either based on the sliding scale, so strongly agree to strongly disagree, or a tick all that apply option. The survey could not have a sizable difference between gender and age of recipients and things like that. And the survey must be completed by a sizable audience to be statistically viable. Finally, all participants must remain anonymous, and the research was carried out by Census-wide to ensure impartial results. So 1,001 people in Ireland completed this survey. And in terms of the survey participants, 38% were male, 62% were female. So slightly more females, but not enough to sway results. We had 27% of respondents aged between 16 and 24, so that's your Generation Z. And 24% of respondents aged between 25 and 34. 22% were aged 35 to 44, so that group is our millennials. And then 14% of respondents were aged 45 to 54, so that's your Generation X. And then, of course, 13% of respondents were aged 55 plus, and that's our baby boomers. So a good pull of demographics there, and that allowed us then to segment the results, and we unearthed some pretty interesting findings. So participants were surveyed across the island of Ireland. And we can see here that geographically the closest city for most was Dublin. That made sense, given that Dublin is the capital city of Ireland, so there was nothing of concern there. And we could also see their employment status to make sure we had a good pull from each, with most having full or part-time work. We could also see what type of accounts participants had. In fact, we saw that 61% of the Irish people surveyed had some form of a credit union account already, so a good pull there. And we could also see their household income to make sure, we had a good pull from each of the majority, with the majority having between 15 and 45k. And then, as I said, all of this helped ensure that we had a statistically sound range of participants, and that allowed us to scale the results for analysis. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, we can jump straight into the results. So as part of the survey, participants were asked a series of questions to gauge their opinion on credit unions. So given that 61% had a credit union account, we thought we would start with the members first. So of those members who cited that they had a credit union account, 75% are satisfied with the experience of dealing with their credit union in branch. That will not be surprising to anybody in this call. You've won the Customer Experience Award 6 years in a row, but still, it's nice to know. And 59% of members are satisfied with the experience of dealing with their credit union online, proving that mobile apps, online loan applications, and the ability to join online, that shows that credit unions, they can rival fintechs without compromising customer service. But the key point here is how you integrate digital technology with your customer service strategy. And then that, of course, needs to be incorporated into your digital strategy. In fact, of those people surveyed who stated that they have a credit union account but don't anymore, 36% of them closed their credit union account due to a lack of digital services. So that's over a third, and that's pretty significant. And it further compounds the importance of your digital offerings. However, 30% of people who also closed their credit union account did so because of a lack of in-branch services. So while still digital is hugely important, we can't neglect in-branch services either. It's also your key differentiator now that so many banks are leaving the Irish market and there's so many branch closures. And remember, in-branch incorporates digital too. So think of your digital signage, digital signatures, self-service kiosks. Technology is an enabler to your fantastic customer service. It's not always a replacement. So some other interesting findings from the survey that we wanted to share. 32% of people who cited credit union as their main financial institution never use mortgages from you, yet the same percentage are aware that credit unions offer mortgages. 35% use telephone banking with their credit union at least once a week. Now, if we compare that with retail banks, only 17% use telephone banking with their retail bank at least once a week. And finally, 67% of those who cited credit unions as their primary financial institution utilise loan applications in a credit union once a year or more. So that's a pretty significant percentage. And clearly your members are aware of your loan offerings, so you're getting your message out there to them. Yet there's still 23% that never use loan applications from credit unions, despite it being their primary financial institution. So that's also pretty significant. Finally, we asked the public to rate financial institutions, including banks, building societies, fintechs such as your Revolits, your PayPal, and of course credit unions. And across a number of areas, unsurprisingly to us, credit unions came up top for most trustworthy, best for customer service, best for customer experience, and best value for money. However, whilst you've got the customer experience and service nailed, and clearly the public trusts you over your competitors, they still aren't seeing credit unions as being digitally enabled or as their main financial provider, as we see reflected in the results here, with only 10% voting you most digitally enabled and only 18% citing you as where they expect to do most finances in the future. So customer service, whilst extremely important, just isn't enough on its own to convert people. So we took the opportunity to look at what would. We looked at what would make the general public switch to a credit union as their main financial provider. And the results revealed that 44% would consider making their local credit union their primary financial institution if they offered online loan applications and approval. Around 25% disagreed, and then there's 31% on the fence. Also, 48% of the Irish public would consider switching financial institutions if they offered a better mobile and digital experience. So that's almost half of the general public who'd completely switch their financial institution to receive better mobile and digital experiences. And that's huge opportunity for credit unions. You already have access to technology and digital solutions, and this 48% could switch from their retail bank or fintech to your credit union. Further evidence to suggest the need for a focus on digital is the stat we see here. 59% of people believe the entire banking experience will be completely digital in 10 years' time, and there'll be no physical branches. Further to this, 84% of the Irish public regard 24/7 access to finances as important. And it's always easy here to think that it's those millennials and Generation Z who are pushing digital. However, what we're seeing is people of all ages are becoming more digitally enabled. Your Gen X and your baby boomers, whilst maybe not growing up with the technology, they are still very forward thinking around technology because a lot of them are experienced with it through their work nowadays. In fact, almost 90% of Generation X, which is your 45 to 54-year-olds, said 24/7 access to finances was important. That's compared to 77% of Generation Z, which is 16 to 24-year-olds. So then, sticking with that digital theme, we surveyed the public on the type of tasks and services they'd expect to be able to carry out via their financial banking app. So you'll see there are things like transferring money, apply for a loan, and applying for a current account. And the good news here is if you look down that list, the majority of these are already available to your credit union as member services. So that's a real positive. And when it comes to their financial banking app, 60% would like to view all financial info through the one banking app. Now, clearly, an open banking integration would, of course, make this possible, and it does offer huge opportunities for credit unions. And we found out 58% of people would consider switching to credit union as their primary financial account for their day-to-day financial services. That's a massive opportunity for credit unions to own that relationship. So as part of the study as well, we wanted to understand the key frustrations that the public have with their financial institutions, so credit unions can determine how to reduce these frustrations for new and potential members and their existing members. And the top three frustrations were phone wait times, necessity to come into branch to carry out some services, and branch wait times. And as we know, there's digital technology available there, both in branch and online tools such as mobile apps to help reduce that. But when asked specifically what would make them switch their financial provider, participants rated the following as top factors, including the mobile app, the local branch, and little or no fees. So what I'm going to do now is just take a few minutes to drill down into some of those a little further. Right, so the hot and quite polarising topic of credit unions introducing fees has been talked about a lot this year. We know some credit unions are just totally against this process, whilst others are seeing it as a more vital way to generate revenue and ensure they'll be there for their members in 5, 10, 20 years time. So we wanted to try and understand a bit more about how the public reacted to fees for the financial institution. And you would think it would have been a resounding no, but that's not what we find. So some good news here is that 41% agreed that if their primary financial institution was providing an excellent experience, as credit unions do, the introduction of fees would not make them leave. A third disagreed, and around 27% were on the fence. So it's not quite as polarising as we thought. And when we actually look at only those people who cited that their credit union is the primary financial account, the amount who agree is even higher. In fact, 52% agree that if they were receiving an excellent experience, the introduction of fees would not make them leave. Around 26% disagreed, and 22% were on the fence. So it does show slightly more loyalty to credit unions from their members. They seem to generally care about their credit union more so than any other type of financial institution. So there's, I suppose, just a little food for thought when you're thinking about the fees. Another notable factor to influence someone switching to a credit union as their main financial provider is online banking and mobile apps. So we see online access to banking services had 53% of the vote, and mobile app access to finances had 51% of the vote. So as we can see here from the bar chart, this is particularly important to millennials, that's our 25 to 44-year-olds. However, not quite as important to Generation Z, 16 to 24, and our baby boomers, 55 plus. Generally, though, if you look at the chart, it's still a pretty important factor across the board, and the difference there is it's pretty marginal, suggesting that the move towards digital is important across all generations. And as we mentioned earlier, most respondents voted credit unions as the most trustworthy of financial institutions compared with high street banks and fintechs, and they see this as a factor in influencing people to switch, with the trust of the institution with their money getting 50% of the vote. As we see here, close to that was having a local branch with 47% of the vote, and ATM locations had 45% of the vote. So that kind of evidences the relevance of the local branch. Now, there were also some other factors, as we can see here, that would influence their decision that are worth noting, albeit to a slightly lesser extent. So the customer experience they receive had 39% of the vote. We actually thought that would be higher on the list, but it's still hugely important. And it does appear, when we drill into it further, it appears that the importance of this does decline as the respondents got younger, which is also true for interest rates charged, indicating that customer service and interest rates are just not as high a factor for the younger generation. The ability to offer a great digital banking experience had 37% of the vote, and the ability to apply for a loan online had 32%. And finally, and again, we actually thought this would be higher, but the institution making a positive impact in the community had 26% of the vote. So some interesting stats there as to what would make a potential member switch. So further to that, 57% agreed that the first priority for credit unions is to invest in online banking apps and improvements to their digital offering. Around 15% disagreed. Considering many of you do already offer these services, we had to ask the question, do the public truly know what a credit union does? Now, obviously, we don't need a survey to know that the public perception of credit unions over the past few decades really has been as a place to save money, and you have made great efforts to shake this image. However, with the introduction of things like new loan types and mobile apps and current accounts and all the great things you've added, we wanted to find out, has the perception changed much? We asked the public to choose from a list of your key services to see if they are aware of what you offer. This was really interesting. So unsurprisingly, most respondents know credit unions offer savings, so around 70% in fact, and 66% know you offer loans. In saying that, there is still 34% who don't know you can get a loan from a credit union, suggesting you still haven't fully shaken that Savers Club image, and surprisingly, 30% don't even know you do that. Less than half, 46%, know that credit unions have the ability to offer current accounts. Even less again, 39%, know that credit unions offer online banking. And only 29% knew that credit unions offer a mobile app. Finally, just 23% know there's ability to join online. The age group here again is extremely interesting. So as you can see, the percentage of those aware of credit unions offering savings and loans, that's our red bar, decreases as the audience gets younger, suggesting that the younger audiences just aren't being reached en masse. Another interesting point is that even basic services like direct debit, standing orders and overdrafts have such little awareness from the public, and we find that was particularly with Generation Z and millennials. So as I said, this could suggest a real image problem, and then it does also tie in with our findings where only 18% expected to do most of their finances in the future with a credit union. So some key takeaways from this section. Credit unions are top for overall customer experience, but it's not enough. Credit unions are not currently seen as being digitally enabled or as a main financial provider. The public feel credit unions need to invest more in digital technology and services such as online loans and mobile apps. And Generation Z and millennials are just not aware of many of the services that credit unions offer, but these are typically the services that would influence them to join. In fact, 58% of all participants stated that they would switch their primary financial provider to their local credit union, knowing that they have all these services. 18% wouldn't, and 24% aren't sure yet. So you still have somewhere you can win over. So some final thoughts in this section. Customer experience was very important to the public, with 39% voting it as a factor to switch, as was trust with 51%. And yet they weren't ranked as high as having online access to banking services, which has 53% of the vote, and mobile app access to finances, which had 51% of the vote, and was favoured by millennials in particular, which would really be the target borrowing demographic. But the good news is you don't need to look far to ensure you have the services to grow your membership. There are key services like mobile and online banking that are already available to your credit union. So this brings me on to my last point. Having these products are only half the battle. Credit unions still have an image problem, particularly with that younger audience. You can have all the technology there is to offer, but without marketing your services effectively, you'll never change the perception that the public have about credit unions. And we actually have a great case study with, I think it was Member First Credit Union, It's on the website. So they actually took a multi-channel marketing approach to launching their mobile app, which was brilliant. And as part of that, they included a simple email campaign that just announced the product release, and they sent that to their members, and that resulted in around 5,000 downloads alone. So proportionate to their membership size and the effort, that was a real quick win for the credit union, and it wasn't overly complicated or expensive to execute. And that will actually be a key message that we want to deliver in a marketing event this summer. We're really happy to have Liam O'Doherty from Gronau Credit Union, Claire Kloss from Scottish Police Credit Union, and Padraig Power from Health Services Credit Union, and they're going to walk through their top tips on how to effectively market your digital services. And you'll see all details on that on the cuEngage webpage, so I'd really encourage you to join that. So, given the clear demand for digital technology and in-branch services, we wanted to delve into this a little further. So before I hand you over to Stephen, I wanted to take some time to share the results on the tasks and services that the public stated they prefer to carry out online versus in person. So first up, if we look at digital. So most people said they would rather check account balances, transfer money, pay a bill, access cash, and access financial information digitally. There's nothing really shocking there. They're pretty basic tasks and they should only take a few seconds. So it kind of made sense to us that people would prefer to carry those tasks out online. So next up, in person. So the majority of people would rather take out a mortgage, increase an overdraft, apply for insurance, and ask a question via human interaction. Again, that kind of made sense. These types of products and activities are bigger decisions. For example, a mortgage, that's likely to be the biggest loan anyone will take out in their lifetime. And in addition, sometimes just having a question answered face to face can give you the peace of mind you need. So, however, it is worth noting that when we delved into these further, the trend is moving slightly towards digital as we start to see less of a preference for human interaction as the age group gets younger, particularly for Generation Z and Millennials, indicating that whilst these tasks may presently be favoured face-to-face, this may not be the case in 5 or 10 years' time for things like joining a credit union or asking a question. And then if we can just take a minute to drill into lending. So over a quarter of people would prefer to take out a loan online, whilst around half cited they prefer to deal with a human when it comes to taking out a loan, indicating the need still for in-branch services. And 85% want a loan decision in 2 working days or less, and of that 85%, 28% expect a decision instantly. This is again where the younger generations do top the poll slightly, and we can see this gradual increase in demand with 33% of 16 to 24-year-olds wanting a loan decision instantly. Just want to take a second to, when it comes to growing your loan book, you actually do have a wealth of data sitting in your core system that you can have access to via tools like CU Insight. So in reality, are the 45-plus-year-olds really going to take out loans? It's more likely going to be that younger generation of their children, like who want first car loans, student loans, loans for weddings, first mortgage. So that's who you need to cater for. And what we're seeing here is that they want fast decisions on loans, or else they may go elsewhere. But again, the good news here is we already know that a lot of our customers can boast 24-hour or less loan decisions, and you have technology at your fingertips, such as online loan applications, e-cigs, and decision as a service. So why is all that important? Well, as we covered earlier, 45% of people want to be able to apply for a loan via their app, and we know 39% of respondents apply for a loan at least once a year. So it's probably not necessarily new information to you, but we just thought it would be good to get confirmation that focusing your efforts on the younger generation when it comes to loans is the best way to go. And the key for you is to ensure you're marketing it effectively, which may sound obvious, but again, having the technology really is only half the battle. And as we've discovered already, the public just aren't completely aware of all the services the credit unions can offer. So never underestimate the power of marketing, says the marketer. So the final piece of research really tied everything together for us. Clearly, there is a need for both in-branch and digital services depending on the task. However, what we have also seen across the board is that the needle, particularly amongst Generation Z and Millennials, is moving increasingly towards digital. So as a credit union, you need to be able to plan for this and ensure that you have a solid digital strategy as part of your wider business strategy. And to help with that, we're actually holding a session on how to develop your digital strategy on the 26th of May with Michael Brannigan, who's the CEO of Community Credit Union, and Paul Kennedy, who is a consultant from Bayberry. And they'll be sharing their experiences on building a digital strategy and show you how you can put yours together. So that's another one to make sure you register for that. So some key takeaways before I close. Most people would prefer a banking experience that's a combination of digital and in branch, though the trend is moving towards digital with younger generations. Almost 60% of people don't think physical branches will be here in 10 years' time. And the demand for faster loan decisions is evident. So when it comes to your loan growth, your younger members are your key target, and you can use tools such as CU Insight to help you find out more about them. Now more than ever, it's vital that you develop your digital strategy, and as I mentioned, we have that session on the 26th of May on the very topic. Having the technology is only half the battle. You need to market it effectively. Again, please do take advantage of our marketing session this summer. And finally, digital technology can complement in-branch. So in the meantime, there is lots you can still do to ensure that you can facilitate your members' needs. And would be remiss to not highlight that actually all of these are currently available and in use by the majority of our own credit unions, or indeed on our own 2021 roadmap. So there's services such as digital member onboarding with ID verification, virtual tellers, websites with FAQs, that all enable you to offer a digital experience for your members while still maintaining your customer service levels. We feel that blending these digital services with your in-branch services allows you to generate efficiencies and still provide a good in-branch experience. For example, we know some credit unions who use things like iPads with digital member onboarding and loan applications installed, and that allows their members to self-serve while still having the support from the staff in branch. And in addition, when the pandemic first hit, some credit unions were really quick to use their websites to direct members to the correct online services, and that enabled them to get access to their finances. And then finally, with tools such as Decisions as a Service, for loans automation, you can receive recommended decisions, either fully or partially automated, that can speed up the lending process to help you meet the public expectation of faster loan decisions. So clearly, lots out there already for you. So that's everything that I wanted to cover today from the results. I hope you found them useful. And I'm going to pass you over to our Business Development Manager, Stephen Phillips, now just for some final thoughts.
Thank you, Emma. Just a little bit of feedback on the line there. Is everybody on mute? Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be presenting our findings today, and I'm very happy to see so many people on this call. I think you'll all agree that these results are fascinating and, in my opinion, very timely. When we talk about opportunity, and you're going to hear that word used a lot throughout this presentation, we talk about the closure of banks in the Irish market. We talk about the closure of branches and the and banks exiting completely from the market.
Stephen,
and if you, yes.
Apologies for interrupting you. It might be easier if you go into presenter mode.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Just slideshow and then from beginning.
Sorry, just let me exit here.
Yeah, show presenter view. That one.
Is that okay?
That's you, Stephen. Thanks for
Brilliant.
that.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Emma. Yeah, so as I was saying, real opportunity for credit unions in the Irish market with the closure of banks. Leo Varadkar spoke last week and referenced the fact that there was branches closing and exits of other banks, but funny enough, never mentioned credit unions as an alternative. And that's something that has to change, and something that we need to work on as your partner in making sure that you, the credit unions, have that level of products and services that you can offer, but also we're pushing that out to not only your members, but non-members in creating that awareness. So the objective of my presentation today with you is really just to recap on what Emma has presented to you and kind of give you those final figures. So if we look at the market today and from the people that have been surveyed across the country, 75% of those people have formally held a credit union account, with 61% of Irish people having some form of a credit union account today. So straight away, there's a massive opportunity for credit unions here with a target audience, not only attracting back that potential 75% of members that have had an account through their life, but also capitalizing on that 61% of current members that may not be using the credit union to their full advantage. As we know, credit unions, Credit Union is a great brand. You know, best customer experience across 6 years. That's hugely valuable. And we see some of the results that have come back, mentioning 41% of people surveyed look at credit unions as their most trustworthy financial institution to deal with. Another 41% looking at best customer service, and again, best value for money and best customer experience. That is something that really needs to be capitalized on, and you as in the credit unions have done some superb work to get to those numbers, to instill that confidence, and to have those accolades and awards over the years, and now is the time to act on that. However, there is customers and the Irish people that are unaware of the products and services that credit unions offer today. We've seen some numbers come back to 54% of the Irish population are not aware that credit unions offer current accounts. 61% are unaware that there's an online banking facility. And if we can just focus on this number, a huge 71% are unaware that credit unions can offer a mobile digital experience. That's absolutely a huge number. For me, and working in this space and understanding credit unions and I suppose the market that they're looking at, it's really important that credit unions are not only getting this message to their existing members, but are also attracting that Gen Z or millennium that Emma referenced throughout this presentation, because these are the people that are digitally driven. You know, these are expecting what we call a credit union in your pocket. And it's really important that those numbers are addressed and that awareness is created, because the message here is that credit unions, it's not that you don't offer these services, you do, and in fact offer great services, but it's really just getting that awareness out to those customers. The positive news here is that 2.7 million people would consider switching. That's 58% of the 4.6 million that are currently not operating their credit union account as their primary financial institution would consider switching if they had the services you see on the screen. And if they knew or were aware of these services, which range from online banking to overdrafts to current accounts and debit cards. Again, credit unions offer these services and offer them extremely well to existing members. So it's getting that message into the market and saying, we are here, we are able to offer these services and we want to work with you. So if we look at some of the numbers, again, going back to the opportunity for credit unions, so some of this, the stats that have come back is that 27% of Irish people have a credit union account for most of their money. So they're transacting day to day and using that account as their primary account. 31% of credit union members have a credit union account, but it's not their main account. So potentially they're just saving in the credit union. We all understand the challenges that has today and has presented, and we know how credit unions are tackling that around share caps and reducing that, and looking to those members to not just use the credit union as a savings facility, but also to use it for their full banking needs. And then again, massive number, 72% of the Irish public are using a Main Street bank for their day-to-day banking activities. That number needs to change, and in my opinion can change dramatically. But again, it's just about creating that awareness and getting that message out to those customers that credit unions can compete and can be competitive and can evolve at the rate of Main Street banks to make sure that their members are getting best in breed and an excellent service. This is a really interesting slide. 56% of people surveyed that are using a Main Street bank for all of their financial needs today are unaware that credit unions can offer a mobile and digital, and in fact, if they were aware, would move. That's a very high number. Again, going back to the fact that credit unions have a great brand and a great brand awareness in the market. And I think customers and members are just looking to make sure that they're aware of these services and they've got confidence that they can move. And rightly so, these services are currently available. And at 44% of these customers, again, would consider moving to a credit union if they knew that the credit union in question could facilitate and offer online lending. There's other influence factors here that when we spoke and had this survey carried out, that if you look at some of the numbers, 62% of the people, the Irish people, would move and consider moving to a credit union account for all of their financial needs, based on little or no fees. 53% of them would move if they felt there was a strong online access banking service. 51% would look at it if there was facilities and access to a banking app. And really, the last two stats are really interesting. So people, our customers, would move based on the trust with the institution. And we know the trust that people have with credit unions, and that needs to be capitalized on. And again, 47% looking for that local branch. So the message is quite clear here. You know, digital is really important and is really important for your members and as you continue to grow and evolve. However, credit unions having that local branch and that reach to members that want to still avail of that is equally as important. There's a golden opportunity here for credit unions to attract customers who don't necessarily want to bank with traditional banks anymore. And also you can convert members as well that may have had dormant accounts or are irregular users in the account to become more active. And that's through that awareness, and that's through that product set that you know you have in your kit bag and that you can offer to members. We know that, you know, there's younger people in the market that don't look favorably on Main Street banks and want to move to institutions that have corporate social responsibility, i.e. credit unions. So the challenge here is getting that message, creating that awareness and making sure that credit unions are at the forefront and capturing members at an early stage as well. You know, if we go back to that Gen Z and we're talking about, you know, people or customers coming out of schools, secondary schools, who are looking to open that first bank account, who essentially, once they have opened that account, will continue to bank with that financial institution right the way throughout their life. And we see that time and time again with banks. So it's really important that you're not only creating that awareness for your existing members, but you're capturing younger members at that really crucial stage where they're looking to establish themselves with a financial institution. Marketing is key to this piece. You know, we know you have the capabilities, and we know that you have this amazing brand in the Irish market, and it's getting that message out to your members. And we at Wellington are going to continue to work with our customers to make sure that that message is strong, that you are capitalizing and we are supporting in any way that we can. And really, when we talk about marketing, we're talking about seizing an opportunity. We've spoken about the closure of banks. We've spoken about the opportunity that brings. And now is the time to act on that. Now is the time to prepare yourself for those customers that are going to be looking for a new financial institution, be it through your digital offerings, your product suite in credit unions, through mortgages or revolving credit or whatever that looks like. It's really important now, because as I said, this is an opportunity that needs to be capitalized on. So for me, you know, I would like to thank you for your attendance today. We will continue to work with our customers at an individual level and at a group level to make sure that that message is heard in the market, that we are enabling our customers or partners to offer these services and to be competitive in the market. And we welcome any feedback you have. But at this point, I'm going to pass you back to Kevin, who'll round off the session.
Stephen, thanks very much for those insights. Guys, just before we open the floor to some interaction and questions, I want to flag some of the upcoming events we have on part of our, I suppose, cuEngage sessions across 2021 in May and June. On the 5th, we'll have a real hot topic in open banking, which will be led by our own Chief Technology Officer, Ian Glenn. The hottest of hot topics at this point in time, so engage in that. We have something a bit different on May the 11th with Don Coulter and a Q&A session with Don. Don is a former CEO of Coast Capital Savings Credit Union in Canada and currently works with credit unions across Canada in his capacity as CEO of Concentra Bank. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to get his unique perspective on the Canadian market and specifically discussing how they've adapted across this pandemic time and what's happened in the last 18 months. One not to be missed. We've spoken today on digital strategy and how crucial that is. So we have a session on the 26th of May, which will be very interesting, with Michael Brannigan, who's CEO of Community Credit Union, and Paul Kennedy from Baybury Consulting, which will give you some insights in terms of how to best get your digital strategy up and running. And on June 23rd, a topic very close to Emma and Rebecca's heart here. We've some brilliant credit union marketers from health services staff, Scottish Police and Grana Braher credit unions, showing you how to effectively market your digital services. And I think we've seen today it'll be extremely important. We think these are all very, very interesting topics, and we certainly encourage every credit union to make the most of these sessions. We put a lot of time and effort and thought into what we put up here. So we really want you to engage with cuEngage. You can register on the cuEngage website, and we'll be sending out reminders as well closer to the time on these. Finally, just on what we've seen today, we'll be putting a white paper on these survey findings and more in the coming months. So keep an eye out for that in your inbox this summer. What we'll do now is we'll hand over to Rebecca and kick off a little Q&A to see if there's any questions after coming in or if there's any points anyone would like to make.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Emma and Stephen. That was great. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask around the session? I know Geraldine asked whether it's possible to get a copy of the slides from the webinar, as it's very informative and timely. So yes, we can send out a copy of those presentation slides. Has anyone any other questions, or if you want to unmute your microphone, feel free to ask the question yourself. Take that. I think Emma and Stephen, you've covered everything. Nobody has any questions. It was all very clear.
And Rebecca, we've recorded this session as well.
Yeah.
For anyone who wasn't able to attend. Okay. Guys, if that's it, if we've no questions, we'll take anything if anyone wants to make a point.
Where can we access the member first case study? That's on our website. We'll include a link to that in the follow-up email. So we'll do that.
Guys, just want to say thanks very much. It was great. This is Geraldine in Dundalk Credit Union. Really timely, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Geraldine.
Okay, guys, if that's it, thank you very much for attending today. We hope you found the session useful, and we'll see you for the next event, which is coming up very soon. Thanks, everyone, again.
Thank you. Thanks, Emma and Stephen. Thank you.